So, our guests tonight have lived in the most beautiful, most historic place in Fairport, and it is the Daniel DeLand house. So you know the Henry DeLand house is the Green Lantern. This is Henry's brother Daniel's house, and they have been very good stewards of this home for the last
6 years?
6 years. And they have made some amazing discoveries, and they're here to tell you about those tonight. Please welcome Laura and Mike DiCaprio.
Do they dim it all? That's fine. Hi, thank you for coming. This is a huge crowd, and we're really excited to talk to you about our house today. I'm Laura, and this is Mike, and we've had the house since 2018. Can you hear that? That might be good. Can it turn off?
Plug it.
There we go. Great. So we've had the house since 2018. We used to live in a neighborhood, Ben Oak Trail. It's by the high school. And we had just started thinking about maybe we want to move, get a larger property. And we, of course, passed the house on this corner multiple times a day during our commute, going to the store. And it made me so sad seeing the for sale sign out there for about 1.5 years. And so we decided just to take a look at it and see what it looked like and what kind of shape it was in, and we decided to go for it. And so we've been there since October 2018. We moved in on Halloween, which is very appropriate. So this presentation, we've been doing work on the house ever since we moved in, and throughout the work that we've been doing, we've found a lot of really cool stuff that used to belong to the people before us, the DeLand family, primarily the DeLand family and the Carey family, who both were the longest owners of the home. And so today we're going to go through those things that we found and share them with you. So for tonight, we're going to go through a little bit about us, a little bit about the house, and then go into the finds that we came across. So again, I'm Laura, this is Mike. We both work in marketing by day, and in the afternoon we take care of the house and take care of our kids, James and Charlie, who are in the back corner there with my in-laws. And we also have 3 dogs, Kipper, Pork Chop, and Brisket. And so we're the current owners, and we are the 4th family to own the home, which is pretty unusual for a house of this age.
Wow.
All right, so hi everyone, hopefully you can hear me okay. As Laura said, I'm Mike. So just a little bit, we like to call it the original DeLand house. So the house was built in 1856. It's an Italianate design. It used to be on about 45 acres, and it was a working farm, so it produced, as we have here, corn, oats, potatoes, butter, and hay. There was an extensive barn complex. There's only one barn left now. But there were horses, cows, cattle. We have the horse stalls in the barn still. As a lot of people may know, the grounds later became a park and then was sold to development. So DeLand A and DeLand B used to be part of the property. It was designated a local village landmark in 2011, and thanks to the efforts of Laura, was placed on the National Register of Historic Places in 2020. Nice. 2 or 3 years of work? Yeah, it was a lot of work. Yeah. So the first unexpected discovery was brought to us a few weeks after we moved in by Mr. Pori over here, who let us know that the house didn't always look like it does today. So as you'll notice, there's this smaller wing of the house here that is no longer there. That's because that portion of the house was removed and moved over to what do I have there? East Ave and Maple Street. So that portion of the house is still there. And now we have a 2-story, actually it's on the next slide, a 2-story addition where that portion of the house once was. So this is the house in about 1877, and then this is what it looked like in 1885. So this is the bird's eye view of Fairport. It's the same, you can see it on that map in the back there with the red frame. And you can see the extensive barn complexes on the property there. I know it's a little blurry. This is what the house looked like in 1940. Looks a lot like it does today. All right, so I'm going to turn it back to Laura to cover the DeLands.
Okay, yeah, so in this section, we're going to go over the DeLand family. They lived in the house from 1856 to 1907. Daniel died in 1892, but his wife Minerva continued to live on into the house until 1907. They had 5 children. My favorite DeLand is Stella DeLand. That's why she has the little hearts next to her name. And we'll get into why she's my favorite DeLand in a little bit. And the DeLands are very famous here in Fairport and nationwide because they founded the DeLand Chemical Company, which was their baking soda manufacturing company. Oh, and I also bullet pointed Minerva Lewis DeLand, who was Levi's daughter. She is the DeLand that the school is named after, the Minerva DeLand School. She was the principal. She was a teacher and a principal. You might have to turn this off. Yeah. So the first item we found in the house wasn't really hidden away. It was in a closet. And it was this really cool safe from, from 1890. It's an iron safe from the Victor Safe and Lock Company. And it was locked. And so us, we had just moved into the house. We had all these expenses coming up. We hired a locksmith to bust into this thing. Because our riches were waiting. This was going to pay for the electricity that we had to put in the house. And so he came. It took him 8 hours. And he brought a lunch. He sat there for 8 hours. He couldn't get it, right? He had to drill into it eventually. But he drilled into it eventually. Drum roll, any ideas what was in there? Nothing. Unfortunately, there was nothing in the safe. And so that was a downer. But we have the combination to the safe now, and so if we wanted to, we could put our own stuff in there. It's very heavy, which is probably the reason why they didn't move it out of the house. So that's going to stay with the house.
Pass that combo on to the next owner.
Yes, they can have it. The next, we were in the attic, just looking around, and we came across this old shoe. And this is a child's boot. It's about a few inches long. And the first thing I thought was it was probably just this random shoe. And so we put it back up there. But then I started doing some research online, and it turns out that they're called concealed shoes, and it's a thing, especially in Europe and in the United States. And mostly between the 1700s and the 1800s, they considered it good luck to put a child's shoe in the attic. Either in the attic, in the walls, up in the garage, in a barn, but they were supposed to keep evil spirits away. And so we put it back, and it's still there. I considered bringing it here, but I don't want to disrupt anything. So it's still in our attic. And this, the museum, there's a museum in the UK, the Northampton Museum and Art Gallery. They have a whole gallery dedicated to concealed shoes. And they even have a registry of concealed shoes. So you can go on there and register your shoe, where you found it, what condition it's in, what the material is. So I went on there to register this shoe, but it's only for UK shoes. So that's a little bit of disappointment.
Start your own organization.
Yeah.
Okay, so another thing that we discovered is that people have been writing their names on our house and property since about 1856. So ignore the dirty window, this one doesn't open. It's kind of hard to clean, but maybe hard to see on the screen here, but circled in red is W.M. DeLand, which stands for Wayland DeLand, who is the youngest son of the DeLands. And so this is in our kitchen window, looking out into our backyard. And then in Charlie's bedroom is another DeLand etching in one of the
So these
windows.
are the original windows?
These are the original windows, yep. And the original DeLand's writing all over it. So they must have taken a diamond or something to scrawl that out. We also found a lot of cool stuff in the ground. We've made friends with Steve and Doug from Rock Diggers, and they've been on our property probably a dozen times, I'd say, metal detecting, and have found a lot of cool stuff. So here's them in action out in our, actually I think that one's me, out there metal detecting. There was actually a feature that Laura wrote in 585 magazine about them and some of the cool stuff that they found as well. And we have on the table afterwards, if you want to take a look, a couple of shadow boxes with some of the artifacts that they found on our property. The coolest one though, and the one that they were most excited about, was this thing here.
Oh, wow.
Which you can see says DeLand and Company soda. And so this is, well, it's in one of those shadow boxes. It's about this big. And we believe it was a watch fob. So it was on the end of a pocket watch. But what's really cool about this is it's designed after the package that the DeLand company made. So the DeLands made a lot of trading cards and promotional materials and things like that we've collected over the years. And here are a few of them that have the package on it. So there's this card right there, as well as the little girl who's actually Mabel DeLand, who was Levi DeLand's daughter, which is pretty neat. So, like I said, there's shadow boxes up there on the table. So here's one of them. So you can see the watch fob right there, but there's also a heart pin, lots of pennies, Indian head pennies and things like that. We found a clock key, and then oddly this centennial souvenir pin from Sewickley, I think I'm saying that right, Pennsylvania, which is a suburb of Pittsburgh. So not quite sure how that ended up there, but and here's another one. So like I said, lots of pennies. There was a little turtle charm and like silver dime from 1853, which is pretty neat too, as well as lots of stuff from like horse bits and like handles of spoons and latches and random things like that we found throughout the property. Yeah. So like I said, you can afterwards feel free to go up and take a look at those. So we've been doing a lot of renovations on the house, right? So this is our main entryway. So this is what it looked like when we moved in, and we've, Laura, renovated this over the past year. But all of the things that we're talking, well, most of the things that we're talking about tonight, and the things that have been found in the ground or the things that we found tucked in the walls, we're putting up on display. So our front entryway has become a little bit of a DeLand museum. So we have the little hutch there where we're housing some of the artifacts, as well as the gallery wall where we're hanging a lot of the letters and memorabilia that we're finding.
Were the walls in good shape?
Somewhere. All right, this is Laura's favorite part, her favorite person.
So Stella DeLand, we found a lot of things that dated back to her. She was born in 1863, lived in the house till 1907. She was an artist, she was a good friend, and then she went to Vassar College. And you might wonder how I know that she was a good friend and that she went to Vassar College. I think if she were alive today, we'd be best friends. I like to think we would be. So maybe she's looking down on me right now. But as part of the process of renovating our house, the house was all knob and tube electricity when we moved in, to the point where you touched the ceiling above the lights and it was hot. And so that was something we had to take care of immediately, and we did that within the first couple months. But because of that, we had an electrician who was basically living at our house for about, what, four months? And so one day I was at work and he texted me, and he said, "Laura, I found something, you need to come home." And when your electrician sends you that, great, And so I rushed home and he showed me all these rolled up pieces of paper that he had found in the walls of the attic. And if you look at them, they almost look like blinds. He said he almost threw them away because they look like blinds. But we started unrolling them, and what we found were these original drawings. And they're down here. We framed them if you walked in and saw these. And they're signed by Stella DeLand.
Wow.
Yeah. And so there are 2 here. You can see we had to put plates on them to keep them from rolling up on each other. So there's 2 here. Up and there's her signature right there. And here's the 3rd one.
Oh, that's lovely.
Isn't that cool? So we knew that Stella went to Vassar. And so when I was putting this presentation together, I was on Vassar's website trying to find out a little bit more about their art program. I was really hoping they had something about Stella on there, but they did not. But I'm going through their website, and they were talking about how they have all these plaster casts for the art department, all these statues that they have their students practice on. And one of the pictures on their website was this.
Wow.
So Vassar, I have a little bit about Vassar here and about their teaching process, but if you look at that statue on the left that they have on their website, and it matches up to this drawing that Stella had done. And so I did, the statue is called Niobe and Her Daughter. And so I did a little bit more research on Niobe and her daughter, this statue. And I came across all these student drawings of this statue, and Stella's is at the bottom right there. So I was pretty stoked to we found this out like probably 2 weeks ago, and that was pretty amazing to me. And so I did some research on the other drawings down here too. For these ones, I just did reverse Google image searches. And so we found this guy.
Wow.
Yeah, and so this is Dante, I don't know how to say that last
He
name.
was a writer, right?
Yes, he was a writer and philosopher. And so that's definitely him. And then this is Augustus Caesar. And then again, I went back on Vassar's website to look at their pictures that they have on their website. And I think that that's the statue right there.
Wow.
So it was pretty neat to be able to go back to the Vassar website and see exactly what Stella was looking at when she was doing these drawings.
Vassar's in Saratoga.
Yes, yep. And it was an all-women's school back then. Here's just a little bit of information that Bill sent to us, yes, stating that Stella did go to Vassar and she was an artist. There's something here talking to her about that, and a couple close-ups of her signature. And then she was about 20 when she did these drawings, 20 years old. And this is how it looks in our dining room. We were just eating dinner tonight. We're like, let's just bring them. So we took it off the wall so you can take a look at them. We weren't originally going to bring it because it's kind of a pain, but it's more fun to look at it in person, so you can come up and take a look at it when you're done. And just for fun, because everyone likes looking at old pictures, the picture on the left is the dining room, I believe, from the Carey, when the Careys owned the home, and the dining hall on the right was when we moved in. And you can see in the ceiling, we had holes punched in all of our ceilings when we moved in to take care of the electricity. So for a long time, we had lived with holes in the ceilings there, but it's all fixed now. And that's our dining room now with the pictures. So pretty neat. So these 3, luckily, were in the best condition of the drawings that we found. A lot of them were completely disintegrated to the point where we couldn't even see what they were. This is another one that was torn up in a couple pieces, but you can tell, piecing them together, that it's a church. So I sent this to Bill, and he did some research, and he thinks that it was the Fairport Catholic Church of the Assumption before the current Assumption Church was built. And you can kind of line them up there. It's the opposite angle. But that would have been an easy walk for Stella, just to go down the street and start, do a little quick sketch on this church. So I thought that was pretty neat. So about a month or 2 after the drawings were found, I get another text from the electrician. Again, you need to come home. I found something, but this time I was a little more excited. So I come home, and he had found a little packet of letters from Stella. They were tied up just like in a movie. These little packet of letters was tied up in a string and put up in the walls of the attic. And so there are about 7 letters, and they were from 2 of her friends. One is Lottie Acer from Pittsburgh, and her married name is down there as well. And then Emma Thompson from Shelburne. Those were her two friends who used to write to her a lot. And I think it's really sweet that she thought these letters were so important they were worth saving. A lot of them are not very interesting. They're just talking about day-to-day stuff, what playing tennis and just what the latest gossip was. Nothing too hot or juicy. But there were a couple of really interesting things within these letters. One was one of the letters that Lottie wrote was she was at Vassar, because she also went to Vassar College. She talked about seeing Mark Twain. So Mark Twain went to Vassar for Founders Day, which was their annual party, basically. So I went on Vassar's website again, just to see if there was anything I could line up, and sure enough, there's this little piece on here that says that Mark Twain did go to Vassar around this time for Founders Day, and he gave a speech. But Mark Twain, unfortunately, had a terrible time at Vassar. He thought it rained the whole time, and he thought the president was very rude because the president did not come up and greet him appropriately before he gave his speech. So I think it's good that Yelp wasn't around back in the 1800s, because he would have panned Vassar.
He even wrote about it.
Yes, Mark Twain, Mike was just saying, Mark Twain wrote about it in his autobiography. He wrote about his experience there as well. So, yeah, her friend Emma Thompson, in one of her letters, talked about how she wishes they could continue to paint together and do art together. So another testament to how she really was an artist. And she also talked about painting pottery and painting porcelain. And then, so I have an Instagram account where I post all the stuff that I do about the house. And one of my Instagram followers reached out to me and said she was a descendant of Stella DeLand. I think she was a great cousin, I can't remember. But she had some original Stella DeLand pottery.
Oh my.
And so she sent me some pictures, which I thought was pretty cool. And you can't really, it's kind of a small picture, but Stella signs her name at the bottom. And so Stella was also a porcelain artist.
Wow.
And so what did we do with these letters? I put them in my office. A lot of them are in my office, and we have a couple, I think, in our living room. And so this was what our office looked like, my office looked like before we renovated it. Someone asked about how the walls were. All of our walls, the majority of our walls are still plaster, and so we've had to go and do the repairs to the plastered walls, which takes a lot of time, but this is how it looks after. And so we have the frame, I have the framed letters up on the wall.
Nice.
Yeah. Carrie's?
Back to me.
Yeah.
Okay, so as we mentioned before, the second family to move into the house was the Carey family. And they lived there for a very, very long time, from 1907 all the way to 1993.
Oh, wow.
I was telling someone about this presentation this morning, and he didn't know that we lived in such an old house. And he said, Mike, straight up, is it haunted? And my response was, I mean, the previous families lived there for decades, so if it is, it's fine. It's not a big deal. So this is a photo from Old Home Week, which was in 1908, and this was a big celebration for Fairport. A lot of people came in from neighboring towns to participate, and Edward Carey is on the Old Home Committee, and that's him right there, if you can see. I believe that was just a one-time event, though, because on the last day there were a lot of crowds and people were setting fires to things and things like that. So, lesson learned. They didn't do that again. But Edward Carey owned the Osborne House, which is where the where the Philly cheesesteak place is now. But you can see that was quite the hotel.
Wow.
And Mr. Carey enjoyed his horses and breeding horses very much. So this is him in front of the hotel with a few of his horses. He liked to race them. And I think it's kind of neat in the photo on the far side here, you can see the trains in the background. So you can kind of tell where that was along Main Street. So we found a few cool things from the time that the Careys were around. The first was somebody carved their initials in our banister. EC. This is probably a younger Carey, I would expect. Probably there was a younger Edward Carey, so our guess is it was probably him. We also found a tombstone, I guess, in our barn for Edward J. Carey. And we joke that Laura's father's name is Edward John, so.
So we're set.
We figured this was probably part of a family plot that, for whatever reason, wasn't used and was left in the barn. Another electrician story. They found a few negatives in our attic as well, film negatives from probably about the 30s. We had someone who was a photographer date them by the size of the negatives. So you can see these two little kids here, and then a couple more photos here. And then the boy on the far side is sitting in front of our front porch. So we can tell by the spindles there. So we think these folks were probably Carries, and found this, get 'em dust cloth. So this was a giveaway when you bought a Pontiac in the 40s, or Plymouth, excuse me, Plymouth. The attic had a lot of finds, I'm realizing now as we're going through this. Lots of old hats in the attic as well. So we found quite a few of these. And here's another shot. They were pretty beat up, but we think they were probably from the 30s or the 40s. During World War II, there were rations on cloth and clothing, so women couldn't dress very elegantly, but there were no rations on hats, so they could be a little more elaborate with how they show up. And the prices of those get me, like $249. I think the most expensive one is like $450. One day we were cleaning the chimney, and a load of bricks and dust and dirt came down, but also was this piece of paper, which is it's advertising a scrap drive. So I thought it was interesting here. They're talking about how much metal they'll need for a machine gun or a bomb or to make a howitzer or a naval shell. So they were calling on farmers to bring any scraps that they had to help out with the war effort, which obviously was during World War II was all consuming. So here's a couple other examples that we just pulled from the internet of similar scrap drives and what they were trying to do to win the war.
Bones.
Yeah, bones. Bones were used for glue and explosives. Yeah, so. And then this is really hard to see, but our barn is absolutely covered in names and initials and dates and things like that. So this is in the doorway of one of the barns. So TBJC is probably a Carey, July 21st, 1946. All right, and that brings us to our unwelcome discoveries.
Okay. Our first unwelcome discovery, we've had lots of bats in our house. The first year we were in the house, I don't think it's happened since the first year because we had the chimneys capped. But we had at least 2 or 3 bats and maybe 2 or 3 birds. And it always happened when Mike was out of town. So every time I had to grab a blanket and get the kids. So there we go. Yep, there's another bird just chilling in one of the bedrooms that we will be doing. And again, it's still always a mystery. Like, how do they get in? Like even like our chimneys, you wouldn't think they'd be able to get down there, and they do. So anyway, a couple of things there. Do you want to talk about the plumbing?
Oh yeah. This is probably one of the most unwelcome discoveries. So this is an aerial view of our house. You would have thought that our sewage system would have gone either to Main Street or Whitney Road. It does not. It goes out our backyard, hangs a corner, goes through our neighbor's house and down to DeLand Park B. So one evening, we were eating dinner and the doorbell rang, and it was our neighbor from that house there, who owned that little parcel of land, and was complaining that sewage was bubbling up into her side yard. And we said, there's no way that could be, there's no way that could be our problem. It turns out it was. And there were some very, very old pipes that were made out of terracotta clay that, and I think this was around April after the thaw, so they broke. And that was a very, very, we were still paying for that, yes. Very, very expensive.
Was it probably when it was just the park and they just had it flow down there?
I have no idea why they did that. I have no idea. But
It's just,
that was an unwelcome discovery for sure. And Laura had mentioned also, Laura had mentioned the knob and tube. These are just some photos of that the electrician uncovered. He said it wasn't a question of if our house would catch fire, but when. Because he said it was the worst he had ever seen in his entire career. The image on the far side here, it's kind of hard to see, but it's like 3 different wires tied into the same thing. And that's the one, so he had torn up our attic floor to get to this, and that's the one that Laura was talking about before. If he put his hand on the floor of the attic, he could feel the heat. And that was right above our boys' room, so we knew we had to absolutely get that checked out. But we're good now. No more knob and tube. And then our last unwelcome discovery was that the house was not insulated. And where it was insulated with newspaper, right? So another one we're still paying for. We got the house insulated, and you can see here they're using these tubes to blow in. It is actually newspaper, but it's recycled and compressed newspaper that's blown into the sides of our house. So it's a lot warmer now, which is good. All right. My favorite section are eBay finds. So I do have an eBay habit, and I like to look for things. One of the things I like to look for are things related to our house. So one of them was this map, which there's another copy right over there on the sidewall. And what's cool about this is it has our house on the side of it. Yeah. So, so this map is of Monroe County from 1858. So the house had just been completed 2 years prior in 1856, and the DeLands were obviously very proud of it. So I imagine they had a hand in getting it on the side of the map there. So we actually have 2 of these. This is the one that's in better shape. We have a couple of DeLand tins that we were able to find. So obviously the one on the far side is a little bit older, probably from the time of Daniel DeLand. It's probably a little hard to see, but that image there is of a park scene. So I don't know for sure, but the DeLand property did have a lot of, or was known to have a gazebo and lots of fancy fruit trees and things like that. So we always kind of wondered if maybe that's what that was depicting. Laura talked quite a bit about Stella DeLand. On eBay, we actually found a letter that was addressed to her while she was at Vassar College. It's just the envelope. The letter is long gone, but this is from 1884. The date's a little bit hard to read, and it was mailed from Fairport. So we don't know, but we like to kind of wonder if that letter was written in our house.
Why would anybody put, why would they put that on eBay? What would be?
I have no idea. No idea.
Seems like such an odd thing.
And I reached out and asked the woman, where she got it and, what the deal was. She had no idea. She said she just bought it came with a box of junk, and so she put it on eBay, and I bought it for $2.
That's cool.
Yeah. I mentioned before that the DeLand company had a lot of promotional materials. So they would give out a lot of the trading cards that we had shown. They also gave out a lot of envelopes for businesses to use. So this is one of them. You can see the DeLand package there, but it was addressed to the Winchester Arms Company in New Haven. So again, pretty neat. So, and this was mailed from a general store in, I'm probably not saying this right, DeLand, Illinois, which is like in the middle of absolutely nowhere in Illinois.
It's a cool stamp.
Yeah, yeah, really cool stamp. Okay, so this was also an eBay find on DeLand and Company stationery. So this is Levi DeLand writing to a Mr. D. Bowder, I believe you say it, asking him to forward by freight 2 case pints of wine to, it's really hard to read, it's W-E, I'm not sure what that is, what the last name is, but to bill it to Levi. And it's funny, I was looking on eBay today and there's another letter, just like this one, written by Levi a few months later asking for the same thing. So he must have had a good friend. But I did a little digging into D. Bowder, and he was the president of Mount Pleasant Wine Company in the Finger Lakes, which is actually still around. Another eBay find. So this is a deed for a plot at Mount Pleasant Cemetery for Mr. John Palmer. The cost was $15. So this was dated December 1865, but it was signed by Daniel B. DeLand, who was the president of the cemetery, I guess, and Hiram Mosley, who was the treasurer. So it's just really cool, you know, coming across this stuff. You think what was going on in the country in December of 1865. The Civil War had just ended that spring. Lincoln had just been assassinated. It's probably a very tumultuous time. But it's pretty interesting to kind of like look at these signatures and think about what these people were probably thinking about at that time. It's really cool. All right, and we're bringing this presentation to a close. Our last eBay find also comes with a lesson. So this was a little promotional cookbook that the DeLand company put out. And this has the grossest stuff in it. So it had like recipes for salad cream with powdered sugar and mustard, recipes for potted pigeon. We were going to make a steamed pudding for Christmas out of this cookbook, but just nothing sounded very good. But my favorite line from the cookbook: "To the ladies, one way to keep your husband in good temper is to give him good food." So thank you, everyone. We appreciate it. We're thrilled with how this is. Instagram, feel free to follow Laura. And if you have any questions, I don't know if we can answer it, but yeah.
It looked like Estella died at a fairly young age. Do you know what she died at?
So that was, the date there was when she lived in the house.
Oh, just in the house.
Yeah, so I don't remember, I believe she died in 1942, and she was buried in Mount Hope. Yeah, but, she married a minister.
Did she do anything with her art in her adult life?
So I looked to see if I could find anything to see if, and no, I couldn't find anything. We even searched her married name to see if maybe her art was under her married name. So I'm wondering if she got married, had some children, and then just stopped and just did it as a hobby.
The basement, is it dirt?
Basement is, yes, dirt floor, dungeon, dank, gross.
Tree limbs for the foundation, for the,
Yes, there's tree limbs for the beams, stone walls. There's a cistern it's still there, still has a little water in it. Wouldn't recommend going in there, but yeah.
What was the condition of the barn?
The barn, you know, it's It's a little rough. The structure itself is not going anywhere. A lot of the exterior boards need to be replaced. It definitely needs a coat of paint about this time. But all in all, that thing is not going anywhere. It is very, very sturdy. Yeah. And half of it was for horses, the other half was a threshing barn. So it was used to dry hay.
So is it a bank barn then?
I don't know too much about barns, to be honest, but
One inch higher than the others
Yes.
for threshing.
yes, yes.
Any comments on an outhouse?
Oh, yeah, we have an outhouse too. Attached to the barn, yes, a two-seater, side by side.
That was luxury.
Yeah, that was another one.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
We should have included that.
Laura, I'd like to know about the rocking horse in your office.
Oh, that rocking horse picture, my dad carved that. Yeah, my dad carved one for me when I was born, and then when James was born, he carved a second one for James. But nice eye.
That's not.
Yeah,
Was there a well on the property?
that I don't know. A lot, like the water eventually to the house would have come from the cistern, but I'm not sure exactly how the water got in there, to be honest.
Do you have, was there any furniture left behind? Or was it all just, it was all gone?
All gone.
Well, the original furniture was
Yes.
gone, but I was going on a walk. I used to work right in the village, and so I was going on a walk once during my lunch break, and there were signs saying there was an estate sale at this house after we bought it. And so I went, and so I did end up purchasing 2 or 3 items from the previous family to keep, and so there's like 1 or 2 things in our dining room. So we did keep a couple of things with the house, but they weren't original to the DeLand, to the Carey family.
Any secret little doors, secret passageways, tunnel things you found, barn or house or otherwise?
We have, so the question was, are there any secret passageways or secret doors or anything? We have a couple of weird hallways and secret like doors that don't make sense because of the way the addition was put on, the side and the back. We have 2 closets that just, you open it up and it's just drywall, like, there's nothing there. So things like that, yeah, but nothing, but when the kids were little, whenever they would have friends over, all they wanted to do was run because it was just like a huge maze. And I'm sure as a kid that was so much fun. So, yeah, in that respect, it was like a huge maze.
Have you ever had any modern day DeLand family come and knock on the door?
Well, actually, that was the section that we removed from our eBay finds. We had actually posted an item on Craigslist, and someone responded to the ad, and they had the last name DeLand. So Laura asked if they were any relation, and it turned out they were, yes. So.
Yeah, they came over, we invited them over. It was a treadmill we were throwing away. And so he said, yeah, I'm related to them. And so I think they lived on the west side. But he came over with his wife and son, and we gave him a tour of the house. And it was great. We took a picture of them, went on our front steps, and it was very, very weird. But yeah. Good. Okay, well, we're going to hang around if you want to come up and take a look at anything, if you have any other questions. I have a bunch of other house pictures and a lot of other DeLand history on my Instagram if you want to check it out as well. So thank you all for coming. We really appreciate it.